Welcome back to the show. I'm Anshari Perera. Now we're going to take a look at the banking sector and the challenges that it will face going forward. So joining me from Frontier Research is Senior Product Lead Anshari Perera. Welcome to the show, Anshari. Now, just to start us off, tell us, how did the banking sector perform in 2018?
2018 was actually somewhat of a challenging year for the banking sector. Talking about the operating environment that they were operating in, the sluggish GDP growth was a factor that affected the banking sector as well as other sectors. On the other hand, the central bank did signal that they were loosening their stance of the monetary policy tightening that they were following in 2016 and 17. And we did see policy rates increasing during the year, but at the same time, the statutory reserve ratio was also reduced, signaling that they were moving on to a more neutral stance. In terms of the profits or the performance of the banks, starting off with the credit growth, we did see a period of very high credit growth in 2016 and 17. But actually this is 2015 and 16. In 2017, this growth moderated, and in 2018 also the slowdown continued. And in the first 3 quarters of 2018, we saw an year-on-year growth of credit of about 15% on average. In terms of profitability, there was the net interest margins that increased slightly in the first 3 quarters of 2018. But despite this increase, there was an increase in provisioning costs incurred by banks as well as tax increases that sort of weighed down on the profitability of the banks.
So what are the challenges that the sector could face going forward?
Yes. One of the major risks is, of course, what's been talked about a lot, the NPL ratios. Speaking about the NPL ratios, in 2017, the ratio stood at about 2.5%. This increased to about 3.6% in 2018 third quarter. Of course, the fourth quarter results are still being released at the moment, and we will be able to see at the end of around this month where it actually stands for the full year. Speaking of another thing that has been highlighted is the reschedulement of loans. According to the data that has been released by the central banks, the year-on-year growth of rescheduled loans, which was about below 15% in 2017, saw a rapid increase in 2018. And in June 2018, it was at about 45%. So banks would have to be a little bit more cautious when it comes to this area and be a bit more prudent because these rescheduled loans could eventually turn into non-performing loans in the future.
Is there any validity to the concerns about the rising NPLs in the construction sector?
Well, of course, the real estate sector is something that has been discussed a lot in 2018, and with that came the discussion about the NPLs related to this sector. Looking at the data, the sector-wise NPLs doesn't really highlight the construction sector because there are other sectors that have recorded higher NPLs, like for example the agriculture or the tourism sector in 2017 as well as up to August 2018. But despite that though, the exposure of construction loans of the entire lending portfolio of commercial banks has been on the rise over the years. From 2012 at 13%, it has increased to about 20% in 2018. So this is something that the banks will have to be mindful about, especially since the banks themselves have expressed that they have seen these delays coming from construction-related loans. So that would be something that they would need to be prudent about and be a little bit more cautious when lending into these sectors. And the banks have already said that they are taking these measures when it comes to this sector.
Thank you very much for joining us, Anshari.
Thank you.
That was Anshari Perera, Senior Product Lead at Frontier Research. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.